Hi, welcome to Level 20 Sportsline. I'm Mike Migliori, Smoking Jim Frazier, Chip Hayner, Al Levine the Talking Machine. We're just a few days removed from the horror in Newtown, which reminded us there's a lot of things in life that are a lot bigger than sports and TV shows. For myself, for my co-host, and for our audience, I'd like to extend our best wishes to the people that were affected by a tragedy, and hope that you can get through it the best that you can. Start out, as we always do, with what's on your mind. Al, what's on your mind?
First, what's on my mind is $4.95 pitchers of beer here. Thanks to Colin. We got $4.95 pitchers, and then don't forget the $7 burger and fries. Now, this is an unpaid advertisement, but come on down to Level 20. Don't forget about them, even though we're not here all the time. Come on down. Now, what's really on my mind is I'm looking around on the co-hosts here, and even our guest hosts. We had a pick on who would win the Heisman. And you know I like to brag a little bit because I'm right only once in a while. So, Johnny Football. I picked him. Nobody else here did. You can check the video. Go online even. But that's not really what's on my mind. Steelers are on my mind. We got a team that's been hurt. They've been damaged. We got a couple guys that predicted 8-8. I got to eat some crow. I predicted 11-5. I was a little too optimistic. I didn't realize that you could have up to 9 defensive backs, safeties, cornerbacks, or whatever. We're signing guys off of the street right now, and they're coming out, and they can't cover anybody. We had problems before. And we're making these quarterbacks look great. Look at Rivers, looks like a superstar again. Romo looks great. And then, when we're still in the game, we have that dreaded disease, fumbleitis. Now, where did that come from? Then we have brain freezes. Guys don't realize that you can get out of bounds. Guys don't realize you can catch a ball and be 20 yards closer for the game-winning field goal. We have a kicker that's only missed 1 field goal all year. Oh, by the way, he gets his hair cut the same place I do, by Mary Ann at Zazu, right down in downtown Pittsburgh. That's enough for the infomercials. That's what's on my mind.
You didn't think we might talk about the Steelers later in the show? I'm guessing we'll get back to that, so keep that in mind. Chip, what's up? What's on your mind?
What's on my mind? Well, you know, it has a little something to do with the Steeler game, but it's not really particularly about the Steeler game. But what's on my mind is something I saw that kind of disturbed me last night on national TV. Looking at the Dallas Cowboys sideline, I see Josh Brent standing there on the sidelines. And this is a gentleman who 8 days prior was responsible for killing one of his teammates, driving drunk. And, you know, the Steelers had an issue with Alameda Tiamu earlier this year. You know, he got involved in a drinking and driving episode, wrecked a bunch of cars, injured a woman in a parked vehicle, fought with the police, and the Steelers immediately suspended him for 2 games. You know, fortunately, nobody got killed, nobody got hurt, but, you know, here's a guy that is responsible for, you know, irresponsibly killing his best friend, and yet he's still allowed to be on the sideline with his teammates. What's going on with Jerry Jones? I think it was kind of a very bad taste to have him on the sidelines in a nationally televised game. I think, you know, that maybe the Cowboys should have, you know, given him some type of suspension, get him out of the sight's eyes, because I just think it was inappropriate. That's what's on my mind.
Thanks, Chip. Smoking Jim, what's on your mind?
Hey, thanks, Magic Mike. And my good friend Magic Mike Migliori said it best, but everybody know I got 13 god kids and I love children, so if we can just have a moment of silence for all the children that got killed in Connecticut. Thank you very much. Also want to welcome back in the audience model actress India. She was a guest on our show previously.
You're interrupting her eating one of those great salads, buffalo chicken salad at Level 20. Look at that. Get a commercial.
And
Sorry.
And everybody knows that I'm in the process of writing India's book, and it's going to be hot and steamy and sexy just like her. And Chip, where's your beautiful wife, Stephanie?
She's
I got something for Stephanie.
right next to India.
I got something for Stephanie. She's going to be so proud of me, I tell you.
There's another book.
I tell you what.
He triple wrapped it.
I read a book, and I tell you what, it was a great, great book. The author of the book, Wes Lyons, the Pittsburgh Steelers, is here. The book is available for sale. I tell you what, it's the greatest book I've ever read. And Wes is not going to be a stranger here to this show. His best friend is a fullback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, number 46, Will Johnson. So we hope to have Will Johnson and Wes back on the show, and many, many of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I tried to get Rashid Mendenhall to come because he had the weekend off. Hey, listen, speaking of overrated Steeler coaches, listen, I'm a professional gambler. In 2013, I'm going to put my money on all the opponents of UTEP. How is the most overrated Pittsburgh Steeler offensive line coach ever, Sean Kugler? How did he get a head coaching job anywhere? Listen, when Kugler got the job, the Steelers had the worst offensive line in all of football. They're still the worst offensive line in all of football. Hey, listen, all I hear is how great a coach Kugler is. But listen, you can't sell me the sizzle. You got to sell me the steak. I'm from the show me state. Proof is in the pudding. Hey, listen, me and Kugler got into it a couple of years ago when he told me he likes Trey Essex. I told him that Trey Essex had the muscle tone of a canned ham. I told him that if that was a crime, Trey Essex would get the electric chair. I said Trey Essex' claim to fame is when he dies, he'll be buried in a piano case. Listen, the real reason that I cannot stand Sean Kugler is because he had two sons. They were both All-American football players at North Allegheny, and they beat up on my Gateway Gators. For that, I can never forgive him.
Thanks, Jim. Let me tell you something.
It's a tough act to follow.
I read this book too. I got one question, Jim. What's it about?
I like the
I
picture.
know you don't know.
We don't have to answer that question. It doesn't matter. I'll tell you, this is December 17th. We aren't going to be here next week, so this is actually our Christmas show. And well, I was on my way over here, and I listened to Ben Roethlisberger on the radio, and it made me ask myself, what would I give out for Christmas this year? First, to the Pittsburgh Pirate fans, I also heard them talking about giving Clint Hurdle an extension. Are you serious? Pittsburgh Pirate fans, I would give you Tony La Russa. I'd give you a Major League Baseball manager who knew a little bit about Major League Baseball, as opposed to bubblegum. For Donald Fear, head of the NHL Players Union, for Donald Fear, for Christmas, I'd like to give you Lot 104 underneath Giant Stadium right next to some other bum that thought that he was a great labor union. And like I said, I listened to Ben Roethlisberger whining and crying about he doesn't like the play call and he doesn't like Haley's plays. For Ben, I'd get 12 lessons with Charlie Batch. Ben, you need these lessons, go to see Charlie Batch for 12 hours, 1 hour at a time, and learn something. Okay, maybe he can't teach you anything about being an NFL quarterback. He can teach you a little bit something about being a man. And that's what I'd give out for Christmas this year. We've got a lot of guests today. Get started with them. I'd like to bring up local filmmakers Johnny Daggers and Brian Coddington. Guys, come on up.
Good evening.
Welcome
Thanks
to the
for
show.
coming.
Thanks for having us.
I brought you guys on to talk a little bit about your films you have coming up, the one you're working on now, what you might have come up in the future, and also we have a lovely model and actress, Miss Ashley, coming up. We've got India in the audience, so I might be able to pick up on a few few actresses.
Always up there.
Where are they at? He's not eating them.
So tell us a little bit about what you've got going on.
Well, where to start?
Currently, we're working on Moan Amkar, which is a very dark animated horror film. So that's in pre-production, and we have Doug Bradley, who is also famous for Pinhead and Hellraiser. He's going to be doing the narration for the film. So that's what we're working on currently.
It's very similar to music videos from the Quay brothers, that type of thing. A lot of puppetry, stop motion.
Robert Morgan from England.
Robert Morgan
is
from
doing a lot of
England.
really good stop animation film.
Having made a few movies myself and working with actors and actresses, I definitely understand why you want to do animated stuff. because
Oh, I prefer it so much more.
they're no fun.
Oh, we got actresses here.
Poor lady. I kind of prefer the live action, but I mean, you know, the last film we worked on, which was Tablet of Tales T-shirt right here. See, I do advertising too. I know where
There
you're
you go.
Did you bring any?
Yeah.
T-shirts.
What's your website?
Daggervisionfilms.com.
Look at the camera, folks. Repeat that again for these people.
Daggervisionfilms.com.
Yep.
Thank you. Go there now. Oh, that'll be tomorrow.
We have a
Rest
lot
of
of
the
nice
show.
merchandise, DVDs, so pick some up for stocking stuffers, make good Christmas gifts. So.
Shameless promotions are welcome on the show. Not a problem.
So what's
And
your?
if you buy one of everything, we send Brian wrapped in a bow and
Yeah.
Can I pass on that?
yeah, well,
I'll take an animated Brian tomorrow.
Make Al's a double. Make Al's a double.
What's your upcoming your next project after the animation?
Well, after that, I'm in the process of writing a script. It's our first feature-length one. We've had one that we're in the process of re-editing. It's called Caustic Zombies. That was our first foray into feature films. By the time we're done, it'll be a feature-length film. Right now, it's roughly around 40 minutes, so it's not quite there.
hasn't been released yet, but still has over 90,000 hits on Wikipedia alone.
Yep.
So
Yep. And but after that, it's going to be a live action, really dark. Deals kind of with like the possession films of the 70s and 80s, that type of thing. We do a lot of homage in our work.
All right.
So
And so when will you start casting for it?
it's
That's-
hard to even say with
yeah.
that. I mean, right now we're in pre-production for Moan Armcara, so we're probably going to look at shooting that around springtime. You know, wrap that up and probably release it probably even in the fall, and then from there think about what we're going to do next. You know, as far as where we're going with the film.
But aside from that, we also have our radio show that we do as part of spookshow.tv. It's a horror host network that gets roughly around 10,000 listeners. And we've had some really good guests on that. We've had
John Cassier,
the Crypt Keeper, from Tales from the Crypt, if you remember him. We've had Doug Bradley on as well. Who's the artist we had on? Jared Brown.
Jared Brown.
Who's a horror artist. He goes to a lot of conventions. He does all acrylic paints work. It's really awesome stuff. But we do that. We also have local musicians on. Daniel Lee Perea, who's a kind of a rockabilly type of art musician. So
Have you ever had Smoking Jim Frazier on?
we have not had
never had
Smoking Jim.
Jim does a lot of radio. All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on. Please stick around. We'll love to talk to you afterwards.
Definitely.
And again, thanks for coming.
What's that radio station again so I can catch it?
It's Daggervision Films Horror Talk Radio.
Wow, you gotta say that
spookshow.tv.
slow, because this is a sports talk show. Say that slow.
Yeah, we're a bunch
Daggervision
of
Films Horror Talk Radio, and it's on spookshow.tv.
And what
we
time?
broadcast live
Yep.
on Fridays at 10 p.m. Eastern, and then it re-airs for streaming and download on the following Tuesday.
Yep.
And when are you going to have the co-host on this show with a little sports horror talk?
Whenever you guys want to come on.
Nice. Thanks for the invite.
Whenever you guys want to come on.
All right, guys, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for coming.
All right, well, I'd like to keep rolling along. We've got a very special guest. Jim and I do another show called Steel City Sports World. Our co-hosts are on that show are Luther Dupree and the political assassin Kelly Russell. Kelly, come on down. Spend some time with us.
Come on, Kelly, talk a little Gateway.
Jim, you know what? Chip mentioned that USA Today came out, or what? Pennsylvania's
the
top
state,
athletic top
high school rankings.
high school football team rankings came out. Woodland Hills was number 3. Gateway was
conspicuous
Wasn't
by
there.
its absence.
just thought I'd mention that. Anyway, Kelly, thanks for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Tell our audience a little bit about yourself and
Oh boy!
what you thought of the Steeler game.
You must want me to bore the people to
Keep
death
it
by
short,
telling
Kelly.
them by
Keep it
myself. What I thought of the Steeler game. You know, they call Antonio Brown, Mike Wallace, and Emmanuel Sanders the young money crew, but I'm starting to think they need to be called the no money crew, because when the money's on the line recently over the past few games, these guys have basically dropped the ball.
And that's what they do very well.
Whether it's Brown fumbling, Mike Wallace not getting the catch and getting booed by 60,000 people, or Emmanuel Sanders also fumbling as well. So a typical Steeler game recently with missed opportunities. Couldn't get the play made when the game was on the crunch, or when the game was in the crunch, and another loss. So
it's funny you say missed opportunities, because when I was on my way over here, I listened to Lamar Woodley talking about the reason they lost the game was missed opportunities. And I'm assuming that opportunity is Latin for tackle, because the reason they lost the game was because of a bunch of missed tackles. But yeah, it was not a good game for the Steelers. They said earlier, Roethlisberger is complaining about the play calling. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen all the diagrams for the plays that they run, but the one that they ran at the end of the game yesterday, I don't think Haley wrote it up to end in an interception, so I'm not sure that was his fault. But Jim, you got a lot more insight into the Steelers than I do, and like them a little bit more than me. So, what do you think?
Maybe it's because they're just not that good. I took a lot of heat before the season.
Yes, you
I
did.
said the Steelers would go 8-8. Last year I predicted they would go 12-4. I said before, when Bill Cowher's players begin to retire, you're going to see the Roman Empire start to crumble, and that's what you see. Right now, the guy that's taking no heat is Kevin Colbert. Kevin Colbert ruined the Detroit Lions, and Kevin Colbert's in the process of ruining the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don't forget, when Bill Cowher, who should be in the NFL Hall of Fame, when he was here, he was the general manager. He ran the draft. Now Kevin Colbert's been running the draft for the last 6 or 7 years, and you see the results: lack of talent.
Hold on, Smoking Jim. I got to overrule this. Bill Cowher in his last year, 8-8. So, what did he really take over here? Potential? Because that's what we all see in sports. So I got to disagree with you, my friend. 8-8, and we're going back to the mean. They call that going back to the mean. So that's our average now, 8-8. So you're right this year. We got to win 2. Let's see what happens. But we're back to Cowher's record.
Well, looking at the Steelers this year, what you're seeing here after Week 15 is you're seeing a lot of the same mistakes that have been happening all season long. They keep on repeating the same mistakes over and over. And at some point, the players got to be held accountable for this. I mean, the coaches can yell and scream and everything that they want, but, the leadership that we lost out of that locker room from last year to this year, I think it's showing up in critical times in the games. You got a bunch of guys that are trying to figure out how to make it work, but, considering everything that, the lack of consistent offensive line play and the secondary play yesterday was horrible, but we were still in a position to win that game in the fourth quarter. Somehow they, these guys that aren't very talented are playing well enough to almost win games. They're 1 or 2 plays away from, turning these losses into victories. So, I know we're all down on the team this year because we've been spoiled by 2 back-to-back 12-4 teams, but they're doing much better than they have a right to be doing right now, I think.
They better hope Dick LeBeau got 10 more years. That's a genius at defensive coordinator.
The problem is he doesn't have the talent he used to. He's setting up the same schemes. They can't do it. And what happened with tackling? The line's been blocking and tackling on offense, but the defense surely couldn't tackle.
The line didn't block or tackle anybody.
Well, that's because we had
yesterday.
2 rookies. They both move in unison left when they should have gone right. Then they'd move right, and they'd come in left wide open. So they're just rookies. That's the price you pay. They have the potential for the lines that we've had in the past that have gone to the Super Bowl. All of you remember subpar offensive lines, and we got a couple trophies out of the last 3 times we visited. So I'm hopeful. 2 more wins. We just got to beat Cincinnati, and that could be setting us free for the playoffs.
Well, you can talk about the rookies and the guys they pulled in off of the street and out of the unemployment line to play or whatever. But I've told you guys 2 Mondays ago, I told these other guys 2 Wednesdays ago, there's only 1 quarterback that's won a game in the last 5. They need to stay with the hot hand. If they don't put Charlie Batch in against Cincinnati, they will not go to the playoffs.
I still disagree. Batch in there. I don't know if we would have scored that many points.
Who's the last quarterback to win a Steelers game?
You're talking facts, but it's not reality.
Yeah, excuse me.
What do facts have to do with anything?
It's a Steeler country.
Sorry if I
Facts
talk
get in
about
the way
facts.
of the Steeler fans. Come on now. We won games when we shouldn't have. Nobody thought Batch would win.
We won games that we shouldn't have. What about the games that we should have?
Oh, we gave a bunch of those away.
The Titans.
Everybody knows that. State
They
the
lost
obvious.
to Cleveland.
State the obvious. We know that.
It's not like the first time they've lost to Cleveland. They lost there, what, 2 or 3 years ago?
Thanks, Kelly.
They lost to Cleveland the first year they came back.
We're talking about.
Well, no,
this year.
recently.
Yeah, I mean,
Recently.
they got a history of losing to Cleveland when they shouldn't.
Well, anyway, like you said, if they don't put Charlie Batch in, they have no chance of beating Cincinnati. You've got no chance of going to the playoffs. Tomlin's a pretty smart guy. I'm sure he'd like to put Batch in, but the Roonies won't let him because they paid way too much money for that mouthy punk that they've got. And
Well, and I
now
don't
he's
think
gonna
that's
get whine
necessary.
and whine about the play calling because that's what obviously.
I don't think that's necessarily the issue. One of the things that really disappoints me is Jonathan Dwyer's had a real chance to step up and be the workhorse for that team this year, and it doesn't look like he's ready to accept that role. He doesn't, to me, look like he's got the desire to want the ball, every time as you're going into the fourth quarter. Remember Jerome Bettis was a battering ram. He would just keep on hammering people, and he hits and he hits, and then he taps out and he goes and stands on the sidelines, and then, and he comes back in, and it doesn't seem like he runs hard every time he gets it. And he's got the opportunity of a lifetime right in front of him, and he's letting it slip through his hands. That's a big disappointment, and then the Steelers need him to run, and then you got the wide receiving crew that seem to create more big plays for the defenses than they are for our offense lately.
Right, and let me I want to agree with you about that point about Dwyer. He goes, makes a couple of plays, and he's tapping out like he's in wrestling or something like that. But also, you talk about Tomlin as a great coach. Remember, if y'all think back to when we did Steel City back in September, I said we're going to learn a lot about Mike Tomlin. And I'm really starting to question his inconsistencies. Like the running backs fumble, you pull them. Young Money fumbles, but they're still in the game. So what exactly are you doing? What type of standard are you setting if you pull the running backs, but yet the wide receivers still stay on the field? Now, granted, I've been a huge critic of Tomlin. I gave him credit when he deserves it. They're not going to fire him. No matter what happens, they're not going to fire him. But still, I still have a lot of questions about this man, and he doesn't do it for me the way I would like him to do it all the time. But I think it's time that he takes a lot more heat than he's taking.
What do you think about his managing the clock?
I'm not a big fan of that, or in-game coaching decisions,
and the half
or
decisions.
That, along with certain times the challenges as well. I've been very critical of Mike Tomlin. These two could tell you if Luther Dupree was here, he'd try to defend him to death. But there's a time where you have to call a spade, and just have question marks on Tomlin's ability at times.
Yeah,
You can't do that on this show. It's not enough.
I've got to agree with you. A lot of Mike Tomlin's decisions this year have caused me to question, some of the reasons why he's done some of the things he's doing, and and who knows what's going on. I think right now that the locker room's kind of fractured. He's got these issues with Mendenhall. He's got issues with Mike Wallace, and none of these seem to me to be are being addressed. And I know they like to keep things in-house and not air them out in the public, but I think there's problems that aren't being addressed that are just like a cancer. Are going to eat away at this team from the inside.
Mm-hmm. And while we got Kelly here, let me go out on a limb. Because we got the expert here. The greatest high school football team I've ever seen was the '86 Gateway Gators. The second greatest high school football team ever seen was Terrell Pryor's football team. But I tell you what, next year, 2013, that Aliquippa team that only loses 3, Kelly, may go down in history as the greatest team of all time. Aliquippa's going to be loaded next year, Kelly. You got to agree with that.
I will agree. Aliquippa's loaded. However, to be great, you got to win state. It's as simple as that.
And I tell you what, in Aliquippa played the way they played, they actually should have won that game. They got deep into the other team's territory a number of times and gave the ball up on downs and on fumbles. And they weren't able to cash in on their opportunities. The other team did.
Right, and imagine if they had a kicker. You see the kicker from Ryan missing 52 yards, basically the game winner. Mm-hmm. If they just had a kicker, they would have won that game. And there's opportunities they had that they couldn't cash it in. But I'm just a firm believer that to be great, you have to win state. And I can't crown a team great till they win state. The only thing I can say about Aliquippa, heartbreaking loss. We've seen teams do this before. I think of 03 Central, 04 Central came back in one state. 06 Jeanette, 07 Jeanette came back in one state. Hey, even going to basketball, 06 Shenley lost, came back in one state the next year in 07. So hopefully that team can be great. Remember how they felt when they lost this game. Use that as inspiration for the next year. But 07 Jeanette is not the second greatest team. I'm sorry. Great player with Terrell Pryor. But no.
And then wasn't there rumors that the Raiders were probably going to try to start Terrell Pryor before the end of this season?
At what position?
I think maybe at quarterback because, Carson Palmer doesn't seem to be the answer.
He's better than Kaepernick. So next year, Terrell Pryor is going to stay in the NFL on his head.
How many Heisman's did he win?
Yeah.
What did Kaepernick do?
Beat Brady last night.
Yeah.
How many touchdowns did he have?
4. He threw 4 touchdown passes last night.
That's easy.
Before we go into the other state championship game, we'll let Jim invite up his beautiful young guest.
She's
And
Well, I'll tell you what. Met this young lady 3 years ago. If anybody knows me, they know I usually don't chase after the ladies. I'm a little shy. Beautiful women make me nervous. And I'm in the press box at Heinz Field, and I see this goddess walk by, and I tell you what, I was on a full sprint. You thought I was a Jamaican sprinter. I was Bolt. And I tell you what, I talked to her, and I tried to convince her because I know a lot of people come up to a beautiful lady like that and try to tell them that they have this or that for her. But fortunately, we was able to keep in touch. We became best friends. We do a lot of boxing commentating together. She's an excellent expert on boxing. She ended up doing some ring card work for amateur boxing. I introduced her to one of my best friends, boxing 8-time champion Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. hired her on the spot. Now she's one of the top ring card girls in the country. Please put your hands together for the beautiful, the smart Ashley Mittens Way. Woo!
What an intro. Welcome to the show.
And I tell you what, the 8th wonder of the world, her grandmother is actually the principal of Clareton High School, and the 8th wonder in the world is how she can keep those kids academically eligible.
the 8th wonder of the world is how they can keep them in a single
Let
A.
me start out by saying he talked so much about all the high school teams. They went 1-63 and have won states 4 times in the past 4 years.
Yes,
Did he
they
mention
have.
that?
No, he didn't.
Well,
so
he was
I think
thrown
they
out
should
of
get
that
some
community, I
credibility.
heard.
No, they should absolutely. That's an amazing run that they're on right now.
We'll salute him.
63 in a
Look
row.
at the camera.
That's incredible.
All I want for Christmas is for them to close down Clareton.
Stuff like that.
Her
why we can't
grandmother
go
will
to
be out of a
Claire.
job.
Out of a job.
Come on.
You don't have to
And so
close
will
down
Robin.
Clareton, just move them up into double A. See if they win 63 there. Well, Ashley, Jim said that he started chasing you about 3 years ago. That must make you about, what, 18?
I'll be 18 next week, actually. So.
Well, happy birthday.
And you were faster than him, of course.
He had his cane and everything.
Look, he gets winded like that. He's out of his chair.
Oh, man. How you see that one coming?
Have some more water, old timer.
Well, so you, Jim says you know a lot about boxing. Who you think are the best local fighters? Who do you like?
I really like Monty Mezzaclay, and I have to back Spadafora. Just have to.
Why?
I love the guy. He's been through a lot. He's definitely overcome a lot in his life. So give him credit for coming back and still sticking with it and winning his last 2 fights.
He's still undefeated, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, a lot of people, thanks to Mike Migliori, a lot of people don't know I'm a writer. And thanks to Mike Migliori, I'm an award-winning writer. I won the Golden Quill Award, and I won it on an article I did on Paul Spadafora. So I tell you what, I'm a big fan as well.
Okay, so, well, I'm a big fan of Monty Clay for sure. I think he's the most exciting fighter I've ever watched fight. He's never been in a boring fight. Under better management, he should be fighting on pay-per-view cards. There's no reason in the world that he should be doing house shows here in Pittsburgh or at the casinos or whatever. He should be fighting for championships. He should be fighting on pay-per-view and let the rest of the world see how exciting he really is. Paul, again, under better management, Paul should be fighting in major fights now too. He's undefeated. He's a former champion. He's never been beaten. He should be able to get into the ring to fight anybody. If Manny Pacquiao decides to come back, why not try to get a fight with Paul Spadafora, who is a former world champion, undefeated, and start your comeback that way. But then again, maybe Paul does pretty good in that fight and gets some other fights. I know there's a lot of guys that duck him. I know Floyd Mayweather wouldn't fight him in his own basement if his mother was the referee and his kids were the judges. But that's, you know, Mayweather's a bum anyway. He's a coward. He's not going to fight anybody except his girlfriend and her kids. Again, actually will be the first time that he fought them. But Paul, again, with better management, should probably be able to get up in there and get a pretty big money fight sometime soon. But again, you know, the fighting here in Pittsburgh, and that's not going to do any good for them. Neither one of those guys. This is a dead end if they continue to do that.
And Ashley, what do you think about all this stuff?
I can't comment on that because I work for the guy that is their boss.
No, you can tell him I said so.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
In fact, you can tell him to come on down on the 7th, and I'll tell him that too.
And the nice thing, I tell you what, Ashley's such a star. They pick her up in a limousine, put her in a 5-star hotel, all brand new outfits. I tell you what, you ever get an opportunity to go see a Roy Jones promotion fight, it's first class all the way. And I tell you what, Roy Jones couldn't be happier than with Ashley. And I tell you what, I'm still on my way to see Roy Jones's farm down in Pensacola, Florida. He got 5,000 chickens. I can't wait to get down there. He used to be in cockfighting, but he retired from that.
Illegal.
But I can't wait to get down there. Yeah.
Talk about that. Have you seen any of the fights?
No, I haven't seen it, but I heard about it. Yeah.
Where's Roy's fights here locally?
Right now, they got a nice contract with Mountaineer. Tad Arnaud, the former CEO, used to be a very good friend of mine, but Tad Arnaud stepped down, and I haven't been back to Mountaineer since they backstabbed the greatest fighter ever from southwestern Pennsylvania, the show, Vaquan Kimborough. So once he lost that contract, I've been boycotting Mountaineer.
When was her last fight?
Vaquan Kimborough so fast, he can turn off the lights and be in bed before the room gets dark.
I'll say that. Vaquan Kimbo is very fast. Monty Clay couldn't catch him to get him to sign a contract to fight with him. He was a very, defensive fighter, I guess you'd say. Didn't like to get hit, didn't like to get close enough to hit anybody else, but he would run away with just about anyone. He could probably outbox, Mr. Bolt. All right, well, thank you, Ashley. Got anything else you'd like to tell us about what's coming up?
Just have a few photo shoots coming up in January with NJV Photography, and I'm going to be working with Terry Briselli. So.
Well, Terry does good work. We've had a lot of her models on. I'm not a good photographer, but I'm the best in this country. So if you ever like to get together,
your photo shoot with Mike Migliore.
And we just had a couple of filmmakers on, still sitting in the back of the room. They should go down and sit down and talk with them. I'm sure you look good in some of their films.
And I gotta put it out there before she goes.
Yeah.
Everybody knows my favorite body part is the tummy. Ashley got the 6-pack. She got the greatest tummy in the world. I love tummy.
I don't believe that.
Tummies and feet. Tummies and feet. My favorite body.
Whoa.
It's not that nice.
There's the camera.
It's not that nice. You don't want to see it.
Well, if they put you in a horror film, you might just die real quick. You won't see the tummy
Yeah,
or the
hopefully.
feet. Okay, so they'll do that. They help out like that.
All right, Ashley. Well, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Ashley.
Good luck to you.
Well, before we get any further, might as well bring up your next guest and keep him on for the rest of the show with us.
I tell you what, this guy, I don't know how in the world we were able to land this gentleman. I tell you what, we go way back. His father was a hero of mine. His father was a professional wrestler. And I tell you, this is back in the day. His father was so strong. His warm-up sets on the bench used to be 315. He used to put his feet in the air and do it 15 times. He used to work out with Ryan Monday's dad, Greg Monday. He used to work out with Big Stan, James Robinson. And I tell you what, he loved his 2 sons. His sons grew up to be high school All-Americans. Both of them went to college and were great college players. And both of them had NFL tryouts. And I tell you what, I couldn't be more proud of a great role model. I went to the gym last year 5 times. 5 times in the gym, and every time I was in the gym, I seen Wes Lyons working out there. Hardest working man I know, and I tell you what, if I had a daughter, I want her to marry somebody like Wes Lyons. Put your hands together for Pittsburgh Steelers, Wes Lyons! Best book I ever read. Buy it, buy it. I'm gonna read it again tonight. Look at all them highlights,
For the
man.
first time.
I couldn't put it down. I couldn't put it down.
Did that for you.
I got 13 God kids. They love crayons.
What's all the bookmarks in there? Is that the pictures?
Wes, yeah,
Pictures?
hey, I'm figuring that out.
Wes, before we get started, I got to ask you something. Jim said he went to the gym. He saw you working out 5 times.
Yeah.
How many times do you see him working out?
I watch TV. I watch TV. I go in there and watch TV, man. 24-hour cable, brother.
They got the dish network.
Hey, I seen him in the bathroom a lot.
Satellite
Is there a steam room there for him? Or maybe a pool?
I seen him in the bathroom a lot.
That's
Which arm were you working on?
He's walking around the pool buying his drinks with an umbrella in it.
Well, Wes, there's a lot we could talk about, from your high school career to your college to pros. But let's start with the book. Tell us a little bit about your book, and what it's about, what you did, why you did it, and where you're going with it from there.
Basically, the book is about overcoming obstacles. It's a teaching tool for high school athletes, other athletes, even just sports fans. I think everybody can relate to this book, and not only the athletes, but even just regular students in the classroom, or people just who are facing challenges not only in sports but in life. So I made this book just to help others out and give them the guidelines of what you're going to go through just to get to that national level. So.
Well, the title is The Pursuit with Patience.
Yep.
What does that mean to you?
That means while you're pursuing a goal, everything takes time. So you have to be patient at it. Nothing comes easily, and you have to take the time to really work at what you want to achieve.
And Wes, how old were you when you started lifting weights?
Probably about 8 years old.
Well, what do you say to all the parents that say weightlifting at a young age will stunt your growth?
I'm standing 6'8", so I don't know how much stunning that would do.
Think how much taller you would have been.
Tell them what you weigh, too. Because the shape you're in, you're 6'8"?
Yeah, 6'8" to 65, somewhere around there.
Wow.
Yep.
What's your fat ratio there?
What
are you up to now?
My percent, my body fat percent, it's probably about 7%, maybe somewhere around there, I would guess.
There you go. Start lifting at 8.
Yep.
Don't worry about it.
All right. So what made you decide to do this? What kind of help did you have with it? I know there's a lot of good quotes in here from a lot of different people.
Really, I did it all on my own. I had a couple editors and stuff work with me, but I wrote, the whole story and everything on my own. And like I said, it just was to, help athletes out, give them the guideline, and get people reading. I know a lot of people don't read, and just like Smoking Jim over here, he hasn't read a book in I don't know how long. So
he still has it, let me just tell you, because I'm going to borrow the book off him.
Yeah, so it's getting a lot of people to read, and got a lot of people, it's an educational tool. So, people are receptive to books, and even schools are putting in their curriculum. So, my goal is to get into every school in Pittsburgh, then to West Virginia, then cross the nation after that.
Was this book fiction or non-fiction? There's a couple things in the book I kind of question whether it was true. In 2006, Gateway was ranked #1 in the state. Woodland Hills was #2. Did you really blow out Gateway, you and Darren Wall? I don't remember that game.
Yeah, man, that's facts. So that's in the book.
No
you might
fiction.
That's facts.
I remember that game. They tried to put John Ditto on you.
Yeah, they tried to put
it
Ditto
didn't
on
go
me,
so well.
Yep. Couple touchdowns in that game. So.
Everybody can remember what they want to remember.
It's called selective memory.
Where are you from originally?
I'm from North Braddock.
So you're one of the few people from Pittsburgh that went to Woodland Hills.
that
That
again?
actually should have gone to Woodland Hills.
Yeah.
Weren't brought in from some other country or something like that.
No, most of our athletes are from Woodland Hills,
Nah,
so I mean, you might
try
get
that
that.
with these guys.
No, most of our athletes are from Woodland Hills, so I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, Gronkowski was right around the corner, Buffalo, New York.
And then from Woodland Hills, you went to
West Virginia.
Went to West
I went to
Virginia,
WVU.
and having been at the show when you decided where you were going to go,
Yeah.
I know you had some other options. Why don't you tell everybody who else was looking?
I mean, I was very highly recruited, so Ohio State, Boston College, Miami, Oklahoma, all the big time schools. USC even came to the school. I had scholarships from all these schools.
Why
So,
West Virginia?
I mean, just the opportunity. I mean, I love the fans there. I love the opportunity that was being presented at the time. And, I was very close with my receiver coach at the time, who's now just got the Tennessee coaching job, Butch Jones. So, that was my guy, and we really connected. So, I mean, those were some of the reasons I chose West Virginia.
I know. I'm going to talk about the development level because I'm sure there's going to be kids in Bethel Park who see this. Talk about the biggest growth development from high school to college and from college to the pros.
I mean, it's just it's a transition. So you have to. I mean, you're going to develop. I developed in size, weight. Even just getting older. My body matured, and I matured as an athlete just because. Once you get to the college level, you really have to study. You have to become a student of the game. And once you get to the professional level, it takes it up another notch. And we're in more meetings and more film than we are in the field.
Kelly, what football player from Bethel Park ever went to college or the pros?
I'm just saying people in this area see
tons of
can
them.
aspire. They can aspire. Plus, if I remember right, 2008 that Bethel Park beat Gateway in the Whitfield Championship. John Shadman. I can't remember the quarterback, or Lau Marsh. I can't remember the quarterback's name. But so don't try to act like kids from Bethel Park can't go to college playing football, because they do.
They do.
Kelly, you're welcome back anytime.
We're just a stone's throw away from Upper St. Clair, and they're a perennial, component in the Whitfield Championships year in and year out.
Yeah, I'm predicting they'll be good. They got a ninth grade quarterback who happens to be the coach's son. So the next 3 years, the Blackhawks should do very well.
Now, speaking of Whitfield, we earlier in the season predicted that North Allegheny would win the state championship this year, and they did it in resounding fashion. They scored on the first 3 possessions, not their first 3 possessions, the first 3 possessions, 1 of theirs and 2 of Coachville's, and jumped up to a 21-0 lead and held on to win in 63 to 28.
Yeah, they just absolutely rolled.
Kelly, you're a big high school football guy. Is that one of the best beatings you've ever seen administered in the state?
Yeah, that was definitely a very dominating performance, and I don't know how Art Walker does it. He did it at Central. That 04 Central team I thought was one of the best high school football teams I ever saw. And this 2012 North Allegheny team with Mac Leftwich, Kugler, Conacher, just those names are going to go down in Whitfield lore. Whitfield PIAA lore, excuse me.
And the thing is, what is it, Mac Leftwich? He's not even going to a major college to play quarterback.
No, he is now.
Oh, he is.
He's
now?
going to UTEP.
Yeah.
When Kugler accepted the job,
He pulled his frig. He was going to what? Stephen F.
Austin,
Yeah.
down in Nacogdoches, Texas. But yeah, he's going to UTEP.
Yeah, with Kugler as the head coach, I'm sure in 3 years he'll be fired. But I think maybe North Allegheny was able to do it because all the Steeler assistant coaches' sons are all state for North Allegheny. Leftwich's dad was the offensive coach at Pitt. Now he's at Arizona and moved in as a junior. So just like that Art Walker did at Central, he recruits for North Allegheny too.
Didn't Arizona just win some type of a bowl game?
Yeah, they beat Nevada.
Okay.
Rich Rodriguez, my man, Rich Rodriguez.
What bowl do they play on December the 15th?
And my best friend Jeff Castile. Jeff Castile's the defensive coordinator. Jeff Castile's
You know what bowl
defensive
that is?
coordinator.
You owe us money. You owe us money bowl. And you can play just like a Pitt team starting a Compass, and you owe us more money.
BBVA.
Give me the CBI any day.
XYZ bowl.
Where's West Virginia's playing? The Pinstripe Bowl?
Yeah, the Pinstripe Bowl in New York.
I would have loved to have
playing
seen Pitt
against.
get into the
West
Pinstripe
Virginia.
Bowl and renew the backyard brawl.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Those are some of the. I'll tell you what. Those are some of my favorite football games ever. It didn't matter where they were ranked, what their records were. When they got together, it was just knocked on, drag out.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
So now they're West Virginia's in the Big 12 and Pitt's going to the ACC. So that's not going to happen anymore unless it does happen in a bowl game and they're able to get something scheduled somewhere along the line. When you're a part of one of those teams, you're in West Virginia, did that really mean that much to you to play Pitt? Was that really that big a deal, or is it blown up a lot by the media?
No, I mean it is a big deal. It's talked about all week by the by the media, by the local stuff in Morgantown. I mean, it's a very big deal for me just because I'm from Pittsburgh and I knew all the players. So just getting back, coming here, or even though coming there, just being able to play those guys, I just get really amped up for that game, and it's always a big game.
And I tell you what, for respect for West Virginia, right afterwards we're going to go out and burn a couch. But I tell you what, Wes, just tell everybody a little bit about, because I tell people, I play college ball, and just the commitment a freshman has. Just go through a daily schedule for a freshman.
I mean, daily we usually typically wake up about 7 o'clock, have classes from about 7 to 2 o'clock. Then once 2 o'clock hits, we have meetings till about, say, 4 o'clock. Then once 4 o'clock hits, we have practice till about 6:30. Then at 7 o'clock, we have study hall till about 9. So, I mean, that's our daily routine. So we have to repeat that daily.
See, I tell everybody, it was the same way for me when I was in college, except for the study hall, because as a general studies major, I didn't have to study for my bowling and my basket weaving. I was able to handle that without study hall. But I tell you what, it's a full day commitment, isn't it,
Yeah,
playing
it
college
is.
ball?
It's very, I mean, you have to be very committed and dedicated and, just to go about your business and handle it professionally.
Well, you went from Gateway to Cal U, right? Where'd you go to college?
Hey, I was graduated in 4 years, man. Got my general studies degree. I tell you what, I'm proud.
What is that?
They recruited me, and they was able to put together a program, especially for me. I appreciate that.
Free room and meals? All the shoes you could wear?
I took all kind of electives, brother. I could do it all. I could even hand paint.
No. You
I
changed
could
the
do it all,
colors?
man. I took archery. I took it all, brother.
You can finger paint.
Yeah, I can finger paint, brother.
I want to talk that.
Make sure you watch the January 7th show, because I'm bringing some finger paints in. We're going to see if that's true.
Hold on. Here's something I want to bring us back to reality here real quick, because Smoking Jim will have you all over the world.
Too late.
We always hear about, how student athletes can't transfer. You were at West Virginia when Rodriguez left. Talk about what it was like to transition from him to Bill Stewart and how that affected you guys as the players, or the student athletes, excuse me.
I mean, that was a big transition just because those are two totally different coaches. And, my receiver coach was Butch Jones. Then the next year, I had another guy by the name of Tony Dews. Then the next year, it changed once Coach Rod left and Bill Stewart brought his guys in. So, I mean, just going through that change, you connect with these guys, you connect with these coaches throughout recruiting, throughout, the whole year, the whole season, and have that change 3 times. I mean, you know what I mean? And then earn the trust of that coach and earn, for him to like you, do what you need to do for him to like you. It's really difficult just because, it's the college football is rough. So, I mean, some guys like other guys, some guys like little short, quick guys, some guys like big guys. So, it's an adjustment for each of the players just to adjust to who the coach is.
And I tell you what, you don't have to comment on it. I'm somewhat controversial. I go back to Neyland days, and I used to get into it with Neyland and a lot of the coaches in West Virginia, and I wouldn't send any players to West Virginia because I felt that West Virginia, although I loved the fans, I loved the football, but I always felt that West Virginia never promoted their star players to the NFL because they didn't. If they get 5 or 6 guys playing the National Football League, then that put exposure back on the coaching staff, and they wonder why they only had a mediocre season or didn't do better. So That was always my thing with West Virginia. You don't have to comment on it, but it's
I
still
talk about it in the book. Check the book out. So, hey,
He did.
I talk about it in the book a little
Is that
bit.
where you got that idea?
So Wes, you know, being that you played in the Big East when you played in the in West Virginia, and we're seeing the Big East completely collapse now. All the football schools are going. West Virginia made a smart move by getting into the Big 12. Pitt's gone to the ACC.
Was that smart?
Well, you know, I mean, you look at what's happened with all the 7 Catholic schools that are leaving the Big East, and the Big East was one of the strongest basketball conferences out. Now, like, where are they going to be after next year? You know, when all these teams pull out. You know, what are your thoughts about what's happened with the Big East and actually what they're doing with college football, the way they're fracturing all these conferences and creating super conferences?
I mean, personally, I'm not a Big East fan. You know, I'm a West Virginia fan. So, you know, wherever they go, I'm support them fully. And so, I mean, basically, I'm just anxious to see, you know, how they do next year and how they do the following years in a tougher division. You know, it doesn't matter who they play. I just want to see them do well.
Yeah. No, you know, I mean, they moved into a big league, moving from the Big East to the you know, the Big 12, and they had a little trouble this year. I think if they can figure out how to play a little bit of defense, they might be a. You know, they seem to have the offensive scheme down pat, but they got to stop them from scoring.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to lose a lot of players too, so they are rebuilding. So, you know, I'm just anxious to see what, you know, lies ahead for them. I mean, even this year, every game was pretty much close, besides a few of those games in the middle where, you know, we lost to Oklahoma by 1 point, lost to TCU in overtime. So, I mean, you take some of those games back, you know, we're still ranked up in the top 25.
Got a lot of kissing cousins in West Virginia. Hey, wait, you used to be the #1 baseball player when you was in Little League.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of baseball players that are on steroids and whatnot, but I tell you what, I don't know if you're all natural, but you're a freak of nature. 42-inch vertical jump, 28 reps on 225 pounds, and I tell you what, that's incredible strength, 4.5 40. I tell you what, there's people that's in National Football League that can't come close to those numbers. I think that you really can be a superstar in the National Football League. I think that you should continue to pursue it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just about getting that right opportunity and, you know, treat it fairly. I mean, even with
Did you
the
pass
Steelers,
all your tests?
Passed everything. So, you know, passed everything and, you know, was a third-lane receiver, and sometimes it's unfair treatment, which a lot of stuff I talk about in the book. So I recommend everybody go check the book out.
Where can we get this book at?
You get it on Amazon.com. It's available on Amazon.com. It was the bestseller. And, yeah, so go support.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Well, the book is The Pursuit with Patience. I read it. Jim said he read it. So I can tell you it's a very good read. Yeah, and you get a lot of benefit from it, especially if you're if you have a young athlete in your family that is looking to work his way up. I think you get a lot of benefit from reading this. Well, you said that a lot of teams recruited you. A lot of schools recruited you.
Yeah.
Did Pitt recruit you?
Yes.
'Cause we know that a lot of times Pitt kind of overlooks the local talent.
Oh no.
But they did talk to you.
Yeah, I mean, I had a brother that came in earlier, so a lot of schools knew about me early on as about a sophomore. So I started receiving scholarships at a very young age, and you know, Pitt was definitely one of those teams.
Is it true that Woodland Hill stands for work hard?
Yeah. The WH stands for work hard. It's in the book, so hey, it's in writing.
Get this for a Christmas present. Smoking Jim and his godchildren. There's 13 presents coming up. There's stocking stuffers. See Uncle Wes. Go to Amazon. All the godchildren of Smoking Jim, and the newest one coming up. He said there might be a new one coming up.
7 weeks old.
See? It's not too early to start.
And Gateway's already recruiting.
Only if he buys
got a little
book.
gator in the crib.
Yeah, that's actually Chip brings up a good point. That you probably get kind of wait around hoping to get that call from an NFL team that needs a receiver or needs a replacement, whatever. But it's possible that Gateway could try to recruit you also. They've been known to go a little bit around the circle.
They might want you to shave.
I don't think so. I don't think that matters.
Gateway just had a receiver signed. He's only a junior. Had a receiver,
high
Ricky
school team.
Rogers,
He's
just
signed.
signed with Woodland Hills. for the year, he had 2 catches for 137 yards. They were both for touchdowns. So
Keystone
He's
Oaks.
not where West Virginia.
Yeah,
West Virginia. He's not West Virginia. Okay.
Stats ain't great, but he got potential.
From my alma mater, Keystone Oaks.
Well, Wes, tell us again one more time where you can get it. The book's Pursuit with Patience.
Amazon.com, The Pursuit with Patience. You can type in West Lines, it'll come up, or you type in The Pursuit with Patience, and you see it.
All right. Thank you very much. Kelly, any
Wes.
closing comments?
Thank you, guys.
No, good to see Wes again. Just want to say you deserve credit. Let's give congratulations to Clarendon and North Allegheny.
Absolutely.
Great season for Aliquippa. Unfortunately, came up short. We still want
Absolutely.
to congratulate all those young men
Absolutely.
for all their efforts for this football season. So,
Absolutely.
I ain't clapping for that.
And
don't be bitter, Smoking. Don't be bitter.
while you're here and we got you on camera, who do you like in the basketball this year?
Ooh,
Back to
College or
back,
pros?
Gateway.
College or pros?
college. I thought he was
High
talking
school.
high school. He's talking. Mike
Kelly's
knows.
a high school guy.
Okay.
Gateway,
It-
back to back.
But they don't have the talent, and I told you how I feel about the person at the helms, excuse me. Newcastle won AAA last year.
Yeah.
They're up in Quad A this year. Hampton's up in Quad A. I would look at those two as two of the favorites. I think Seneca Valley's going to have a very strong squad. I think North Allegheny's going to have a very strong squad. But I'm going to stick with Newcastle for the time being until they prove me wrong, and then I would take Hampton number 2.
How about Darrell Porter's son for UPrep or Obama, wherever?
Yeah, Obama in the City League. Obama looks strong, but the surprise team is going to be the Brashear Bulls. I think the surprise team, Kerry White is the head coach who used to coach at Oliver, and Deshaun Martin, who used to go to Char Valley, is back in the City League at Brashear too. So
Really?
I know we've thought about Obama and Alderdice, but look out for Brashear in the City League.
Looks like Aaron approves. He said, yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
pick.
I like Brashear.
All right, well, guys, thanks a lot. Good show. Thanks for coming.
Yep, thank you,
Thank you
guys.
very much.
Nice
Thanks,
talking to
Kelly.
you.
Thanks for
Thank you
coming
for
on.
having me.
Guess we'll see you in a couple weeks. And, thanks for tuning in. We will be back not on Christmas Eve, not on New Year's Eve, but on January 7th. So come on down to Level 20 Lounge. For everybody here, Happy New Year's, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And whatever holidays apply. Was it Kwanzaa? Hanukkah, and everything else that applies at the moment.
Boxing Day.
Have a great year, and we'll see you next year.